Hey guys! I hope you're all doing well. We are just going to be waiting for Emmy to join us in just a minute. Hey guys! Let me know where you're from. Drop a hey in the comments. If I know you, please say hi. Hey guys! All right, here she is. Who loves like dancing when they don't really know what to do with their arms and stuff?
Hey,
Hey! Emmy, what's up?
not much. Just hiding from the smoke.
Oh
You
my
know.
God, same, same.
Yeah,
Ooh,
it's
New
rough.
Jersey in the house, Anaheim in the house, other Californians.
Nice.
Hey guys. Let me
Hi,
adjust this so you can see my
everybody. There's
face.
so many people here. That's
I know.
exciting.
Hey guys. I'm
I
so
want to do a
excited
filter.
to be talking with you today. As you can see, I still have like a wonky eye from
Yeah, I'm so
my eye infection.
sorry.
So, yeah, for
Eye
those of you guys
stuff is
watching, I'm
not
like,
fun.
no, it's so not fun. And I'm like, so, like, I'm over it. I love that filter.
Thank you, me too. I love filters. They like just make me happy.
Oh my God, so happy. Okay, so I reached out to Emmy because I was like, I just feel like doing a live with you
Yay.
because you are just fucking crushing it on your page and
Oh,
with your community. And
thank
I've had the
you.
pleasure of watching you just completely like blow up in the last, even more so. I mean, you were already kind of blown up when we first started together, but watching you expand in the way that you've expanded has been so amazing. And like, even now, even though the program's done, I'm like watching you and like commenting and like it's totally nerding out on everything you're creating. Um, so
Thank
I
you.
thought it'd be super cool to, yeah, bring you on and kind of have you talk a little bit about, because I think your journey really speaks to so many of the people that follow me. Self
Mhm.
healers, people who are maybe not professionally, clinically trained or coming from that background, but healing themselves, wanting to create a purposeful and meaningful life. And that's very much where you kind of came from. And then you created this business around your healing experience, around helping others, and it has flourished. So I really want to show off you as an example of kind of like what's possible. So tell us a little bit about like your journey, your healing kind of process, and how you became a trauma coach.
All right. Yeah, so um if people don't know, I'm a survivor of an abusive relationship when I was in high school, and then leaving that, I was severely traumatized, but I didn't know and didn't know what trauma was, and like all the stuff I talk about constantly, I had no idea. So I kind of started, repeating the cycle and just feeling like really like crazy and like there's something wrong with me and lots of shame. And then eventually I did get help and started seeing a therapist and doing my own like independent, healing work and lots of research and just really dove full into healing from trauma. And, this is the very like digest version to get to today because it's a long
This is
story.
like the 5 minute bite sized
Yeah.
version of this much.
And if
By the way,
people,
we recorded a podcast episode.
yeah,
So if you want to hear her full story,
yeah,
check out the Conscious Leadership podcast. She's up
yes.
there.
And I also, yeah, on my blog, I have like the whole 10-year like summary of my life. So if people really want to read
Mhm.
like a short book about it, anyways, so yeah, so I basically like took many years to get to a place in my body where I felt settled and safe. And it's always sort of like a gradient process where I'm by no means like totally healed or like I don't call myself like PTSD free or anything because it's still something that impacts me. But I've gotten to the place where I generally feel safe in my life and like I'm able to hold space for other people. And I've always been very good at, doing that, holding space for other people, which I didn't know really was like a skill set even because it's kind of like the thing where you just don't know your own zone of genius is like, well, I just thought everyone was good at listening and like helping their friends with their problems. And, but anyways, it's always been something that I've been very confident with. So last year, about this time, I started kind of posting on this Instagram about trauma, like very specifically. and using like hashtags for the first time, and a couple posts, got a little traffic. So I was like, oh, okay, like that feels really good, like to share with others and, have somewhat of a like experience of feeling seen. And yeah, so I just started posting more on Instagram, stuff that I was learning, stuff like wisdom that I had gleaned over of healing. And then it just started taking off really, not really fast in the beginning, but once the new year hit, once 20, like, like it hit the 1,000 mark and stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, like this is a thing. And I thought, like I want to be an author or something like that, like a writer. So I guess I'll just keep doing this on Instagram and see what could happen. But I really didn't know anything about coaching. Um, and yeah, I think like the misconception many people have is like coaching is like fake therapy, or it's just, I don't know, like a scam or something.
Yeah,
But
I definitely was in that boat as a like clinical therapist in that
yeah,
area. I was like, what is this? And then I realized
totally.
they're like two completely different things.
Yeah, yeah, and it's been really nice to learn more about coaching and realize it is totally different, and um it's like its own field of work that is just like it's very, very different than therapy. But it's like, how do you know that? Like, no one, coaching is like very new, so it's kind of like trailblazing a path. Like, no one knows what you're doing, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of like misconception. Um, so, anyways, I found your program. This was in April, and COVID had been happening, and my job went all remote, and I was like, okay, well, like now's kind of the time because I was working with kids. And I was kind of just like, well, there's no way like summer camp is going to happen. I can just tell like now is the time. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to like double down and do it now,
Like
while I
dive
have
in.
space. And yeah, it's like outwardly I'm like, okay, during this time in COVID, you don't have to like write a book or start a podcast or start a business. But like for me, it really was the right time. So yeah, basically I found your program, and just yeah, it did it. It was
That
amazing.
was
I'm sure
it.
we'll get into that, but yeah, it's like it
Yeah.
took me from being like, I remember the day after I put down my deposit, or no, I paid in full. I was like, oh my God, like I have no idea what I'm doing. Like I don't even know what coaching is
Like,
really. Like
what
what?
is this that I signed
And
up for?
I,
Like,
yeah.
yeah.
I immediately bought all these books and was like, okay, it's fine. Like in the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna read all these books and like figure it out. And like obviously I didn't, but I remember having that moment of fear of like, oh my God, like what am I doing? But yeah, definitely like I feel like working with you and you being sort of like my role model as far as like the what I wanted to become, and then having the community of people being like, you're not an imposter, like you are good at this, like you actually know a lot more about trauma than me, like stuff like that. Not that it's comparison, but
But
it's
it was
like it's nice to
interesting,
have
right?
perspective.
Like you're sitting there with trained professionals who are therapists or coaches or I mean there are other people who weren't, but
Yeah.
talking to them and them saying to you as someone who doesn't necessarily come from that background, wow, you
Yeah.
know more than me. I remember you being like, wait, what? And
I
it's because
know.
you're done so much self-study
Yeah.
that it really is at the end of the day like exactly as good as anything else. When I go, I'm in a doctoral program right now, did my master's. It basically was essentially having a mentor plus having like reading materials and
Yeah.
modules and things to learn and implement, excuse me. So it's
Yeah.
very similar, like the journey of being a self healer, using all the tools, figuring out your own path, and then plugging in where you can, like formal little trainings, education, courses, things that you can do to kind of amp up your abilities and your knowledge to make sure you're being ethical and helping people in a way that is really aligned for you.
Yeah, and I think what was helpful for me is realizing like therapy isn't the only opportunity for people to, feel better and grow. And it's been helpful for me to look at not only other life coaches, but other like kind of spiritual healers, or even like, um, I don't know, like psychics almost, or like people that are very like it's not therapy. No one is saying, oh, you're a fake therapist. You know, it's like they're completely different, but they still help people. So it's like just kind
Yeah.
of coupling, like coaching is not therapy. So they have different requirements. But I actually want to ask these or answer these
Yeah,
questions.
there's a couple of these
Yeah.
questions, and yeah, if you want to address them, they're all around certifications
Yes.
and classes, which of course is like one of the most
Yeah.
popular questions I get, and like
Yeah.
all of
Let's
this stuff.
go.
So I'll let you take that.
Yeah. So, okay, great question. So, I became a coach without having any formal training. And the thing about coaching is there's no like licensing or governing board. So, you can just call yourself a coach if you coach people. I know how sketchy that sounds. So, right now, I'm currently taking a class through the ICF, which is the International Coaching Federation. It's like the
Great
biggest like
program.
governing
Yeah, great school.
organization. So I'm getting certified to become a trauma-informed coach. So classes like that exist. I'm taking one now. But the reality is, like, I had a lot of imposter syndrome over this of like, okay, I'm not qualified, I'm not good enough, and it all comes down to like put everything out there completely transparently, like on my sales page, on my Instagram. Never do I say, oh, I am certified, oh, I am trained, nothing. Like I'm just like, this is my story, this is what I've done, this is what I know. And then it's like it's up to the consumer, who's a sovereign being, the client, to identify, okay, am I comfortable working with someone that is going off lived experience and research, or do I need someone with certifications? And if, you know, it's not like we ever even have a conversation. Like people that are looking for certified coaches or, you know, licensed therapists are never going to apply. So it really hasn't been a problem for me. And then it's like, yeah, just like the clients I see, you know, they're not coming to me because I took a class on how to help them. Like they're coming to me because I've lived through this and I understand what it feels like to be in their shoes. Not exactly, of course, but like that feeling of relatability is like
That
such a
connection.
basis of healing. And it's important to emphasize like trauma coaching is not trauma therapy. So trauma therapy, you know, you're like processing that deep and heavy, you know, like you know, it's much more like you've kind of been through that and now you want to have a better life. Like, you know, you don't want your triggers to hold you back. Or you want to be able to communicate with your people in your life, your family, your relationships, what you're going through, so you're not so isolated. So there's all these things that kind of come after the initial, like, you know, I can barely function, I'm so traumatized. When you get past that through therapy or whatever modality you choose, then it's like, okay, like I've made it to here, looking around, you know, who's there to help me like be a full empowered person. So
And there's
I think
also
that makes sense.
limitations as well, right? So like when we're in,
Yeah,
yeah, very Sunflower SC just said very transparent
yeah.
as a coach. I love it.
Thank you.
Transparency, guys, everything. Like don't be somebody you're not, you know, trust people to kind of want to come to you. And that it is really based on that connection and that kind of transparency and vulnerability. Absolutely. And that, talking about like the therapy and coaching spectrum, you got it absolutely right. You know, in the beginning, you need a therapist to really process your trauma and go through interventions and really like sit with you in that. At a certain point, at least in my experience as a trauma survivor, I needed someone to check in with me
Right,
daily, to be like a cheerleader, to be a lot more hands-on because had a lot of self-awareness, but I was still trapped in the patterns that I couldn't seem to like break free of in the moments that they would come up. You know, the
yeah,
old programming would take over, the trauma response would take over. I could do some breathing, I could do some things here and there,
right,
but ultimately nothing really, it wasn't moving as much forward as quickly as I wanted it to. So the difference is with the coach, as a coach too, I get to talk to my clients every single day. We get to
right,
Slack back and forth. We get to jump on a
right.
phone call when things are happening. And that actually, and from their, you know, from their experience and what they've told me, and from my experience having a coach, it moved the needle forward a lot faster and exactly where they wanted to go moving forward. And they also had the energy and the capacity to do all the things that are required when you jump into a coaching space, which is a lot more intense. In
Right.
many,
Yeah,
well, I mean, I wouldn't say intense, but like a lot more like, You have to do a lot.
goals oriented. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And I feel like it's when you were saying that, it reminded me of the difference between treatment and support. So I feel like therapy is treatment,
Mhm.
that term is used like we're treating PTSD, whereas support, like how I look at what I do is like I'm not going to get rid of your PTSD. Um, I almost don't even believe in that. Like it's just like that's not my framework. Mine's like I'm going to support you to live like a gorgeous life despite coping with trauma symptoms, so it's like that those things don't have to hold you back from having meaningful relationships or like advocating for yourself at work, like going for your dreams. But like if you don't have anyone supporting you, it's all on you to kind of like hold your boundaries and like remember who you are and like all those things. It's like it's almost like if you had a coach as a in a sports team growing up, like obviously it's very different, but like that coach isn't going to like make you uh I don't this is a terrible analogy, but like the coach is there to support you and like uplift you and like challenge you. But like with trauma, it's obviously very, sensitive. I don't know, whatever. Just that like that supporting, caring role that you can kind of like look up to and be like, okay, you did it. Like, I can do it too. Like it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Also, as
Yeah. And
a mom, hi
yeah,
mom.
absolutely. Hey, mom. Oh, mom's on here. Yay! I love when moms join. It's like
Me
my
too.
favorite. So, if you guys have any questions about like coaching, about starting a business, about growing on Instagram, Emmy, when you started out with me, I think you had like 13, 15K, and now you have like 50,000 people following you. Do you have
Yeah.
any tips on
Oh,
I
yeah.
guess not even because I don't even like to call it growing because I mean, technically you are growing, but it's not arbitrary. It's very intentional. You're really calling in
Yeah.
your ideal soulmate audience. So, can you give us some tips on like how you've done this, how you use your words to connect with people, how you maybe use vulnerability? I know that something that's come up a lot with my clients and a lot with people on discovery calls recently is how do I get vulnerable on social media
Yeah.
in a way that is intentional and not harmful for me, not harmful for the people watching, because being vulnerable seems to be what really attracts like longtime followers.
Yeah. Love all of this. And I'm very curious to know if anyone, like, if people in the audience, I feel like asking about Instagram growth or like Instagram marketing tips is kind of like awkward almost to like talk about. I have felt very weird about it. I would just like secretly like look up podcasts and it just felt like this big mystery of like, how are people doing this? And like, it feels shady to ask, whatever. So, anyways, I'm just curious if anyone in the audience, I see, yeah, Sunflower, SE said, yes, tips, please. But yeah, if anyone else, is looking for these tips, I just want you to know like you're not alone and it makes sense. But anyways, so yeah, I feel like first of all, it's good to say there's kind of like a skill set for Instagram growth that like I happen to have, and you do too. And it's
Yeah.
like ability to kind of crank out content, like which is very difficult for some people. And I just want to make that clear that like if you really struggle with Instagram growth, one, you don't need to have a huge Instagram to make money or achieve your dreams or
Swear,
whatever.
guys, I swear,
Yeah,
you do not have
yeah.
to even have 500 followers to have a full client roster. Totally.
Exactly. So, two, it's like if you don't feel like you're good at it or you're not gaining traction, like you probably are way better at lots of things than I am. That being said, I will now tell you some tips for how I did this because yeah, like a year ago I had, 300 followers or something, and like in December I had 2,000, in April 14K, and now yeah, almost 50, which first time announced here, I'm going to do a 50K giveaway and I'm super excited.
What?
So just
Oh
1,000 left,
my
guys, and
God,
then
yay!
we're going to give stuff away. But anyways,
Get some free shit. Go follow her at
yeah.
blooming underscore forward.
So anyways, okay, so the things that have helped me grow my Instagram with ideal people to be in it, like cultivate a community, is posting every single day, which, is unrealistic for many people. But for me, when I was working full time, like I would take the bus home and just write a post of what was on my mind. Or a lot of times, like after I would meditate or like go on a walk, or listen to a podcast or read a book, all of a sudden, all these like inspiring quotes would just kind of like So I would go on my notes in my phone and just like power it down, and then just take those words, slap them on a Canva graphic in a nice font. And like it took me a while to get my aesthetic, but once I do, it's like it takes 5 seconds for me to make a post once I have the words. The captions obviously take a lot longer. But anyways, so just posting every day, and something like yeah, the vulnerability piece has been huge, and I think that's what attracted people to me from the start. And I think the reason I'm able to be so vulnerable is because I have done enough of my own personal work to get to a place where I'm completely comfortable talking about my past, my trauma, all that stuff. Like I don't get triggered by that at all.
That's
So
the
I think
secret. That is the
right.
secret.
Yeah, like the fine line between kind of like wanting to be seen because you want help, and that's totally valid too, and then putting yourself out there in a vulnerable way to help others, and they both like go together. And I think at the beginning, the first, before I really became Blooming Forward, I was doing the first one of just like I just want to connect to other survivors
Me
and just like
too.
I was anonymous, yeah, and I was just like I'm just gonna air my pain and like feel seen, and that was great. But then when I wanted to become more of a professional or like leader, I had to kind of move into, and it just happened naturally, moving into like, okay, none of this makes me feel nervous to post at all, or like I feel very secure with everything I say. So that being said, I don't post about stuff that I'm like currently on the spot going through. Like I wait until, a lot of the stuff I talk about is what I was dealing with 5 years ago. Stuff
Yeah.
like that. So,
And
and
on guys, like I'm just gonna interrupt you really fast because I'm gonna forget, but like transparency doesn't mean boundaryless. And I really want that to sink in.
yeah,
You
oh
do
God.
not, just because, right? Like authentic and transparent, you can be authentic and transparent without being boundaryless.
Yeah.
Okay. So please give yourself boundaries, like share what you feel comfortable sharing, or a little outside your area of comfort, but not past the point where you're then traumatizing yourself or
Yes.
leaving yourself open to being traumatized by maybe how people respond to things.
Hmm.
So do your own processing work. Remember that you can be transparent, be yourself, but allow yourself to have a little bit of a private life too, where, while you're working on things, you give yourself that space to do so. And then you can come back from a place of, I would say, real groundedness,
Hmm.
because you've processed, you've dealt with it, you've come to a place where you have a narrative around your experience that you can share, and then approach how you're going to do it on like social media and sharing with the public.
Yeah, totally. Love that. And then a lot of people have questions. How do you, go on stories so much? Like, how are you comfortable talking like how I do? And
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't even post my face or name on here for a really long time because I've been really apprehensive about security. Um, and then it took me a while to ever like talk, and it's like kind of the same as my philosophy on everything, healing, growth, business is like just do a little bit. Like just start really small and just give it a try and see how it goes. And like with stories, it's gonna be gone tomorrow. Like, it's not like this permanent fixture. And realize like everything you're self-conscious about, so many people don't even notice. Like I remember,
Literally zero people notice
like
usually.
growing up and being like so insecure about like my outfit or something, and I remember getting that advice of like literally no one else notices except you. And I feel like that always comes back to me is like I think this is a big scary deal like talking on camera, but everyone else it's like the worst they could think is like this is boring and swipe out or something. And like the best is like, "Oh my God, you saw me. I feel so seen. Thank you so much." Like, and I think once you start doing this and people do start responding and saying
Yeah,
how much you're helping them, like that is what like keeps me going doing this. Like
same.
it's so fulfilling to help people.
Aloha,
So
Janelle. Oh, love you. You're amazing. I'm so
yeah,
glad you're
thank
liking
you.
this.
Thank you,
Sunflower Essie.
everybody.
Awesome. Yeah.
I appreciate
Well,
all
this is
your
so,
love.
I think this is a really common thing because at the end of the day, like you and I both come from trauma. And so now we're like, here we are.
Yeah.
And I think like getting from like point A to point B, there's a whole lot of inner work that has to happen,
Yeah.
and a whole lot of self-soothing.
Yeah.
I think, who was it, Sunflower SC asked, how do you make
Oh
sure
yeah.
when we post our thoughts, and then you have fears of like remarks, like I'm assuming bad, remarks, or, people commenting
Hmm.
negative things. How do you like deal with that fear of sharing your
Yeah.
own words and stuff? So what, do you have anything you'd like to say about that?
Yeah. So, oh, my filter went away. No. Yes, I do. So I definitely was scared of this. Um, and that's another thing is like start small. So you're not going to start with an audience of 50K. Like, you start wherever you're at, a couple hundred or zero.
And you do not want
So,
to like have a starting
yeah,
audience that
no.
big.
So you will start to see what people comment on your posts. And for me, it's been like 99.9% positive. I very rarely had any outright malicious attacks, like maybe
Same.
3 times. Like, I swear, in a year with 50K, like, people are just
It's
not
a lot
attacking.
friendlier than
Yeah,
you imagine it will be.
yeah. And it's like every
Oh no. There she is.
comes with like 25, like, thank you so much. Like, oh my God, like this made me tear up. Like, I can't, like it's just been
Yeah.
so overwhelmingly positive. And yeah, this is another thing of like kind of seeing when you do get like offended by someone's comment. It's like, well, that's a great chance for you to see like, is it okay to receive feedback? Like, do I feel
What is
safe? Because
happening for
yeah,
me? It's a
right.
call to go deeply within yourself, because remember,
Hmm.
these people don't know you personally. So
Yeah,
these comments are essentially a projection. So it's interesting. It's like dig into yourself, ask yourself, if someone says
yeah,
something negative, what's coming up inside of me that I'm being triggered, because this person definitely doesn't know me, and I'm in my integrity. I'm acting, in a way that feels really aligned for me. So what is it that's coming up? And sometimes for me, I know I got bullied, and a lot of people know that was like my one of my major childhood traumatic experiences. And
yeah,
so one comment will pop up that I swear to God is like mild.
yeah,
I
yeah.
disagree. Like so polite, so mild.
Hmm.
And I'll be like,
Hmm.
like still, even. And I have to do so much of my own work. Like, oh my God, I
Yeah,
recognize that this feels like an attack. It's not an attack. It's totally fine. Like, I'm okay. I'm not
yeah.
like nobody's gonna like barge through the door and come like attack me.
I
um,
know.
and it is like, and then it's like, okay, that's a wound that needs to be tended to. So once you work on that stuff, then when people start to comment, or if you do get, those things happen every once in a while, it really doesn't affect you as much, because you
Yeah,
work through what that is that comes up for you, and recognizing that, okay, I don't need to hold on to it. This doesn't belong to me.
right. And it's like it's oftentimes when people, if people are outright like malicious, I'll just block them. And if people
Yeah.
are critical or disagree but are respectful, it's like, okay, well, like let's have a conversation, let's engage. Because a lot of times the posts I make and a lot of people make on here are very derivative or like, really condensed to like a clear takeaway message that can get lose the nuance, and that's just the way of social media and any form of like visual communication is like I can't say every single example in the post. So a lot of times people are just kind of like, oh, well, actually, this wasn't my experience. And it's like, basically, if you just come at that with like, thank you so much for sharing that. Like, this was my experience. This was what I meant by this. Like, just you can just have a conversation and realize, you know, yeah, it's like you can both be right. And it's just kind
Yeah.
of a misunderstanding. So,
And understanding that, like, when especially in the trauma space, it's very activating to have a trauma Instagram page. I know from when I that was my focus, and I know, you do it too, and you're talking about people really commenting about, well, that's not my experience, and we do lose the nuance in Instagram. And so just being really patient and understanding that at the end of the day, at least for me in my experience, both as a therapist and a coach and as a trauma survivor, is that trauma survivors want to be seen and heard in
right,
their experience and validated in their experience. So if you approach it from that angle, like, hey, this person doesn't feel seen and heard by this post, I just have to see and hear them, you'll see
right.
that the response is like, oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you for acknowledging me.
Yeah.
And it's such an
Yeah.
invitation to like build a even stronger bond with your audience.
Yeah, and it's like ethical and integrous, or if that's a word, in integrity for me to like
Hmm.
I don't like just saying, if this isn't for you, leave it or whatever. Like I do that with myself of like, okay, this isn't for me. I don't have to internalize this, kind of like what doesn't serve you, you can leave at the door. But I think just telling people that point blank of like, okay, if you don't like this, you can leave. It's like, well, that kind of, I feel like that implies like, so I'm right and you're wrong. If you
Yeah.
don't like it, you can go. And it's like, no, like that
Hmm.
feels very like I'm the authority, I know everything, and it's like that's not true. So yeah, I feel like just being open, being humble, and being like, okay, like your perspective matters too, so does mine. Let's be
Yeah.
civil, and it's all okay.
Yeah, I love that. And kind of this idea that there's a really big gray area and that all of these different kinds of even contradicting experiences can all exist. You know,
Totally,
we're all
totally,
totally different people.
totally. Yeah, I mean, I think a good example of that is like you can both have been abused, like you can have been a victim and also been abusive. And I think that's really hard
Hmm.
for me, my platform, because I'm so like pro survivor, pro victim, and like trying to like really convince people like this was not your fault. But then if I post some stuff that's like, oh, I didn't know this was a form of abuse, for example, like gaslighting or control or whatever, and people are like, oh my God, I've done that. Like I'm abusive. And it's like, that's really hard for me because I think everyone has like, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone, like, I cannot possibly know your exact circumstance. So that's a hard like thing to navigate because I do want to stay on the side of like, hey, just so you know, like this behavior is not okay, but I'm not trying to like condemn like anyone that's ever like, for example, um, got on their partner's social media and read through their DMs or whatever. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like I don't like when that was happening to me every single day, that was a form of abuse because I had no privacy or autonomy. But like if you've done that before, I'm not trying to say like you're an abuser. So that's just an example
Yeah.
of like where nuance gets lost, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate, but it's like there are limitations of this platform. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think like at the end of the day, like you said, it's like transparency when it comes to growing a
yeah,
community, transparency, trust, authenticity, having some
yeah,
boundaries, like not being
yeah,
afraid if someone's being abusive on your page that you can say, ah, this is not for me. Like I'm going to
yeah,
protect my community here, which I've done. Um, yeah, and just approaching it from not a place of how can I grow, 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 but it's like how can I share parts like me
yeah.
and stand and almost like stand in that receptive energy, that receptive light, and allow people to just see you and be like magnetized to you.
hmm Yeah, it's been cool learning about like personal branding and stuff. And like, I had no idea what the term branding even was. Like, I've never learned anything about business at all. So,
Yeah.
I love that stuff. And I think, this is a good way to say, like, as far as growing a business using social media, like, I severely underrated the value of learning about design, branding, marketing. Like, I was just like,
Dead.
oh, it's just kind
I
of
no, I had
lazy.
no idea it was that important, you guys. I've made
Yeah.
six figures in 1 year because of Instagram.
Yeah.
Because of creating, because of putting myself out there in a way that aligned with people and like creating offerings that would bring value and offering tons of free stuff. It's like it all happened on social media. And I never thought that
Yeah.
like having a brand, having a color, having an aesthetic, like a color scheme and aesthetic,
Yeah.
having a mission statement, having a vision statement, having all of these foundational things in place would be that important. But it is because we can all like figure out how to grow some kind of social media following, but then how do you actually ethically translate that into a really super aligned business? It's like the craziness that I did not think I did like that I didn't think I needed to learn, and then it was like I'm glad I learned it. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got a comment. This is a big one also, like how to brand and what is allowed. Yeah, totally. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's right. I don't even know as far as being
I
an
can talk about
AMFT.
that. Yeah, so
Go
in the
ahead.
program, if you're watching and you are kind of curious about the Leadership Academy Ignite program, Emmy was in it, just FYI. But in the program, I teach my students the differences between coaching and therapy because I come from that background of therapy and I have the coaching experience. So I'm really like kind of specifically, I talk about that. And a big issue that a lot of my therapists and psychologist clients have is like, oh my God, how do I market myself when it's literally like against the ethical code to market myself? And so in a certain way. So with that, I will say that if you are very clear about separating your coaching and your therapy, as a coach, you can create an Instagram page just for your coaching. Do not go and advertise your therapy. Do not like talk about being a therapist primarily and advertising as a therapist. Use it as your specific coaching page. And then you can really, through that vehicle, share yourself, share your story. With coaching, there's no ethical issues when it comes to self-disclosure. In fact, a lot of the power of the coaching experience is the fact that you are in a mentorship position where you are sharing your journey and being that active role model for your clients. So you really do want to self-disclose and share. So if you're an AMFT, if you're a therapist, licensed psychologist, the name of the game is just to really be very clear about differentiating your two practices on your website, on social media. You can tell people you're a therapist, you can let them know that you're licensed, but don't primarily operate your social media through or as the therapist. Operate it through your coaching platform. And if that's separate, you will run into no ethical issues. Now, if a psychology client or a psych client, like, or therapy client suddenly finds you and they find your Instagram and blah, 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 and all that happens, that's actually completely out of your hands. If you did not promote your page, you did not tell them about your page, and they just happen to find you, it's not your fault. You will not be penalized for that. That's not anything against the ethics code. So there's a lot of nuance there, and I really recommend you guys, if you're in this space, like come apply for the OLA IGNITE program. We have 9 spots left. We have 11 incredible women of all different walks of life coming in. Some are professional clinicians, some are self-healers, some are spiritual guides. But for all of my licensed therapy peeps, like this is something we specifically really dive into during our one-to-one calls. Well, I'll walk you through exactly what you need to be doing to make sure that you're protecting your license and making sure that you're acting in an ethical and aligned way, but also being able to create a business around your coaching and making sure that that feels really good too. So please apply. We want to see you guys. And Emmy was in it. If you guys have questions for her, just drop them in the comments or DM her. She has just, I mean, she launched her business from like the beginning to now having her second or third offer that she's creating. So she has a lot of experience in it.
Yeah, so definitely feel
Yeah.
free to DM me if you have some questions you don't want to say here or you just want to hear more about my experience because I'm happy to go on and on about it. It was wonderful and yeah, it's just like I love the internet. I love how we're able to do this. Like it's like
It's
imagining having to go
amazing.
back to college for this or something as far as like creating a business. It's like just being able to sign up for it online and like you, I don't know, like I got to know you through your Instagram a little bit before we signed on. So it was like I could tell like, you know, you're who I want to work with versus like just completely randomly guessing. Like so very grateful for all this stuff. Oh, thank you
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, you
That's
guys are welcome, Becky. Scarlin's
I
Universe,
can't wait to see who
Josipa.
ends up in the next round. There's already a lot of my peeps in it, or at least like 3. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
you have
it's
3 people
awesome.
that came and joined. It was amazing. We have like some really, really fucking cool people in this program. It's all women, by the way, if you guys are interested. It's a women's only program or women identified. So if you are in that group, please come and apply. Oh yeah, imposter syndrome, Becky. Girl, I feel you. I was
Yeah, that
there.
was
Emmy was
my
there. We're all
thing.
there. The truth is, anybody in a leadership position is a human being. So it's like it's we're all kind of our own biggest enemies when it comes to imposter syndrome. We're all figuring it out together. So just get out there and do it. You said, Becky, that you've always wanted to help others through your experience and didn't know if you had to get certificates or anything. So again, in the coaching space, you don't necessarily need any certifications. There's no governing body. You can step into it as a coach whenever you want to. But ethically, I would say go ahead and get that education, courses, read books, get a certification from somebody that you like, and put together for yourself your education that you're going to then transmute as your methodology for your work.
Okay, what is imposter syndrome? Love this. So, imposter syndrome is the feeling that you're not good enough, you don't belong here. So, for me, it was like, I'm an imposter trying to be a coach because I don't know what I'm doing. I have no experience. I have no idea if I'm good enough. So yeah, it was a huge, huge thing to overcome. And that was like the biggest thing that helped me through like the mastermind, the OLA IGNITE program. Is
Yeah.
like overcoming that because just trying to do it on your own is like such an uphill battle. But when you have people around you saying like, yeah, I feel that too. This is how I'm working through it. Or like, no, you're not an imposter. Like all this, like, it's just, it's so, so necessary
It's
until what really
everything.
helps is getting the experience, doing the thing. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I belong here. My clients are getting great results. It's all good. I'm ready. But until then, it's like you gotta like get there first. So having a
You
support
just have to
system,
do the thing. Like, just
yeah,
start doing the thing. I love
yeah.
just
And
do
also
the
like,
thing, post
right.
the post. Yeah.
Right, post the that's like what's great is like you start helping people without like charging or doing anything that makes you feel like
Mm. Oh no, where'd you go? Oh, there you are.
people like on a blog or just on Instagram or like doing something to help without charging, and that really helps with imposter syndrome too. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
just get out there and like I think I started my Instagram page. I was running it for almost a year before I like even thought about creating a business around it. Everything I did was for free. It made me feel really good. I got to connect with people. It helped me learn about things. So yeah, just get out there and do the thing. And then in terms of the Ignite program, I just want to spend a couple of minutes on this. If you guys have any questions specific to the program that I'm launching for the second time, round 2.0, just drop it in the comments. So the Ignite program is a 3-month business and leadership program that I created from scratch. It basically, I'll walk you through 12 weeks of creating your business from scratch and doing all of the inner work that comes with this. So the stuff we're talking about, imposter syndrome, not feeling good enough, not feeling ready, trauma, like it's a trauma informed course. So I work with a lot of my clients on like, okay, you have some childhood trauma around being good enough or being told that your voice isn't important or being programmed to think that you don't have anything to offer. Cool. Let's do some subconscious reprogramming work and get you to a place where you need to be. So we do work a lot on the inner work too. And it's in a group container with 10 women. We're actually going to have 10 in each group. So it's nice and intimate. And we have support coaches. We have a 12-week online program that you get to keep forever and ever with like a 300-page workbook on like setting up everything you need to know for your business, systems, templates, contracts, literally everything you need all in one place, social media growth. So my job and my goal is in 3 months to set you up with a profitable business and get you up and running with whatever your signature offer is and have your social media feeling really good so that you can then just run with it and take off. And so if you're in the beginning stages, you kind of know what you want to do, you kind of have some idea of who you want to help, this is definitely a place to start. You don't have to even know what your business is yet. You just have to have an idea that you really want to explore and that you want to evolve. So if you're somebody who is stuck at home right now, if you have like an online job or you're kind of like in a place where you're like, oh, in the clinical space and you're like, I can't work 80 hours a week and I'm burning out and I want to like create my own freedom, Ash boom, yes. Um, Come join the program. We don't take everybody. We have a screening process to make sure you're really in a good place to be able to take the most out of it. I'm not here to get as many people as possible. I'm here to really call in the soulmate people for this particular program and this journey. So apply. You will get on a discovery call. You'll get to ask all the questions you want to ask. You get to see and explore with former OLA students, and you can actually see what their experience was like, and you can DM Emmy, anything like that. But we'll get you on a discovery call, and then we'll see if it's a great fit for you and for the program. I'm an engineer. My heart is pulling me in
That's
this
awesome.
direction. Just apply. Just get on the phone. Well, at
Yeah.
least we'll talk to you. We'll figure out like what's going on if there is something that you could jump into, because ultimately a lot of this work is really pulling from you what your zone of genius is, and that could include aspects of your engineering. So I don't know. But yeah, so Emmy, is there anything that as we kind of like finish up this like little
Yeah.
Q&A, is there anything that you want to share about your experience in the program, or anything you'd like to say about what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it, like whatever, like
Of
please
course.
share with everybody, because as someone who like values transparency, I could tell everybody all day how amazing it is
Yeah.
because I put my fucking heart and soul into this shit. But I think it really means something to hear from someone who actually is like a third party, who went through it, who knows what it is, and can speak from that experience.
Yeah, totally. So it was like, I think the best part about it was having a group and someone to ask questions to. So I feel like anytime you're trying to do something new, it's like you have all these questions and like, okay, so your options are going through all these podcasts, interviews, reading all these books, like trying to muddle through blogs or something, like Google. Or like if you have a mastermind or a coaching container, you can ask your coach Monday through Friday during work hours, or like you can inquire on the weekend, they'll get back to you. So it's like you have someone there to hold your hand while you're trying to figure out how the hell you're going to make a business as a new entrepreneur, which is like one of the most intense things that you can do, in my opinion. Because it's very against the grain, you know, it's like you're setting your price, you're setting your schedule, you're doing all this stuff, building your website, all this stuff like on your own. I feel like it would take a very long time, or it would be easy to quit because life gets in the way. But when you have someone to support you, or multiple people to support you, it's like, and you have the accountability of like, okay, I signed up for this, I put money down, like these people are here for me. For me it was like, well, of course I'm going to do this. I know I'm going to do this. It's very like self-fulfilling prophecy of like, I said I'm going to do it, the money's on the table, I'm doing it. So like, yeah, and it's just, I don't know, there's like all these guest trainings and stuff which with people that have their own like skill sets, so you can, like, if you have a really specific thing you want to work on, there's like trainings, and like I would just show up with like 18 questions and be like, all right, let's go, and just like boom 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 boom.
Emmy
Well,
got the most out of her time in the
yeah, I did.
mastermind. She literally would show up to guest coaching and would be like, I have 20 questions if no one else has any. And I'm like,
Yeah,
you get it, girl. Yeah,
and
and
like,
that's something, it's a
yeah,
good point though, because most masterminds or most like group coaching programs don't necessarily include guest coaches because it's expensive. You pay for these guest coaches to come on and talk about their zone of genius. These are people who have hundreds of thousands of followers on social media, lots and lots of business. They're really, really successful. And I have them come in and talk about what they're specifically successful with, because I'm just one person. I have one experience. I have one particular audience or that I work with. But you may have a different kind of journey that you want to hear from someone else with a different voice or a different perspective. And I value collaboration so much over competition. So I invite on some of the best people in the business to train you in all these different things. My coach, Amanda Bucci, is going to be coming on again for this round as our guest coach for social media strategy and conscious leadership growth. We have Rachel Havcost, who's one of my dear, dear friends. She's going to come in again and do conscious copywriting. We have, Jara Bean, who, if you guys don't know her, she is a social media coach, and she has like I think 1 million followers or something on TikTok, and she has like hundreds of thousands of followers on her Instagram page. She's coming in to do social media stuff with us this time too. So you
nice.
guys are gonna get like the best of the best all in one place. You don't have to go and hire a business coach, a brand
Right.
coach, a website designer, a social media person, an email
Yeah,
strategist. Like, that's expensive as shit. Come to one
yeah,
place and get it all, I promise you.
yeah. That is definitely the best part, is like it's definitely like all you need to get up and running. And I also feel like the timing is really good. Like it's like fall, back to school. The weather's gonna start getting, worse, so it's like it's a good time to kind of like hunker down and work on this stuff. And then it ends and it's like, okay, 2021, like I have a business now, fresh start, which sounds really nice. Like I just like the
Yeah.
ring to that.
I love
Yeah,
like cycles like that. Like great, and then
me
hit
too.
2021 running. And then if you're somebody
Yeah,
who likes to travel, or if we can travel at some point,
right.
you'll basically be the master of your own schedule. You'll be able to
Yeah,
travel whenever you want, still work, still create abundance, and you'll never, ever, ever, ever have to rely again on anyone else to make money, ever.
yeah,
That is probably the most exciting thing for me, as like me personally, as a trauma survivor, as like someone who hates working for other people, who like needs to be able to like schedule in self-care and take care of herself. I love that every single day I get to show up for me, and that
yeah,
is something that is worth all of this discomfort of starting a business, is being able to have that.
totally. Yeah, it's really delightful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. And yes,
Oh, your
mom.
mom is so
Anywhere.
sweet.
I was just visited her for
Mama
2
Kate.
weeks and worked from home. Yeah,
Love it.
awesome. Well, I'm so excited to see so many people like asking when it starts
Yeah, it starts
and all
October
this
1st.
stuff.
We currently have
Oh,
9 spots left. Go to my link in bio. There's an application there. There's also the info page there as well, separately, if you want to read through it. It is going to be
yes.
life changing, you guys. And I'm not like just saying that. I like literally was like, how can I create something that's going to blow the roof off of people's lives? Because right now, everything is shitty. And I really want people to find something that
Yeah.
they can make for themselves and feel really good about. So come
Yeah, and
join
like
our group. And
right.
yeah.
It like align with your mission. Like if my mission is to help people. Now people need help more than ever. It is like the most fulfilling work you could possibly do.
It's
Yeah,
amazing.
and I just wanted to say like if you do end up applying and you found my contribution here valuable, I would really appreciate it if you would just say I referred you. Thank you in advance.
Put blooming forward in the referral box.
Or Emmy, whatever.
Or
That girl
Emmy.
on the Q&A.
That girl with the butterflies on her
Yeah,
face.
butterfly.
Well, thank you so much, Emmy.
You're
Hello,
welcome.
Hanny. We're just finishing up here, but thank you for joining us, you guys. And I hope this was helpful as you start your own businesses. Remember, like, be you, be transparent, hold some boundaries where you need to, and just start exploring. Just post the post, show up for the story, try it, and see what happens.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to invest in yourself. You deserve it. Um, yeah. And if you have any questions or just want to know more about my experience, just get in my DMs and we will have a conversation. And I'm so excited for everybody. It's gonna be great. So, yeah,
Yay! All right. Thank you so much, Emmy. And all
you're
of you guys
welcome.
have a beautiful, beautiful day. DM me if you have any questions. I love you so much. And I will see
Bye.
you guys soon. Bye.